Rain sheeted the windows of the city morgue, a relentless hush that matched Detective Eleanor Gray's mood. She stood alone beside the steel gurney, its occupant shrouded in white. The city's latest victim, a merchant's daughter, found with eyes wide, mouth parted as if her last breath was stolen. Eleanor bent low, ear almost to the cadaver's lips, as Dr. Shaw cataloged wounds in his detached monotone. Only Eleanor heard it, a faint whisper, like silk tearing. Truth, lie, beneath, echo. She recoiled, bile rising, gaze flicking to Dr. Shaw. He noticed nothing odd, only logged another time of death. Eleanor, veteran of shadows, could not ignore the chill blooming inward from that haunting hiss. A trick of the mind, or something older, darker, that survived death itself? The fluorescent lights above flickered as the hush deepened. Eleanor imagined dozens of cold mouths mouthing half-remembrances, the secrets of their undoing drifting like veils upon the air. This was no ordinary case. She sensed a presence moving at the edges of reason. A curse, perhaps, with roots deeper than the grave. Unsettled, Eleanor made the sign of the cross and left, the whispers trailing her into the storm-bitten night. The investigation had awakened something, and it whispered her name. Gray streets stretched before Eleanor as she trudged through the rain, thoughts roiling. The second victim, an old scholar, skin shriveled as burned parchment, had been discovered cradling a scrap of yellowed page. When Eleanor brushed it, her fingers tingled. Another whisper coiled up, almost inaudible. Ashes, speak, curse. Each victim's demise was more brutal, more ritualistic. A pattern spidered across the crimes. Antique tokens placed at the scene. An ivory comb, a cracked silver ring, a lock of hair bound with thread. She pored over ancient police files, faint whispers rising from forgotten pages. Always the same sibilant murmurs, warning, guiding, pleading. There were others who had heard them, she realized. Names in red ink, officers sentenced to madness, truth never spoken. The city's chill deepened each night, shadows thickening in corners, even at midday. Eleanor scrawled deductions by flickering lamplight, her own breath curling out in ragged clouds. Doubt spread beneath her ribs. Was she hearing the dead, or simply losing herself to obsession? The clues laid a spectral path, but each step felt like wading deeper into a grave. The city seemed to conspire in silence, as if it too carried ancient echoes. Eleanor's investigations led her toward the forgotten heart of the city, Stone Whisper Lane, where fog clung to cobbles. Every window was shuttered. She followed a trail, old folklore of a curse uttered in the city's founding days, a blood debt denied by time. In a narrow apothecary, she questioned Mira Voss, a crone with eyes the color of storm-ravaged skies. "You seek the tongue of the dead," Mira rasped, her gnarled hands busy grinding wormwood. "But the dead do not lie quiet here." Mira pressed a mildewed journal into Eleanor's hands, an account of gruesome murders echoing today's horrors, penned centuries ago. Eleanor read feverishly beneath wavering lamplight, the whispers in her ear growing louder, less shy with each page turned. "Only in darkness, silver thread shall unravel." They hummed. She realized the deaths wove together, each victim a stitch in an old tapestry. Mira's words haunted Eleanor's walk home. "The curse feeds upon itself, detective. The echoes strengthen with each life it takes." Shadows danced at the edge of her vision. The truth, whatever it was, waited, taut as an uncut thread. With dread and resolve, Eleanor stepped further into the weave. Night, wearing the city like morning, found Eleanor shivering by candlelight in her parlor. She had gathered the talismans, ebony locket, bone comb, the ring crusted with ancient dirt, upon her table, arranging them as the journal described, a circle of memory and blood. She closed her eyes, feeling the echoes growing, converging. From the shifting flames, spectral forms emerged. The merchant's daughter, her lips twitching. The scholar, hollow-eyed, clutching the air. a boy with a split tongue. In voices layered like dust, they chanted, "Curse bound by kin, Angelus, severed thread. Speak, unbind us." Eleanor's heart pounded, sweat cold on her nape. She demanded, trembling, "Who cursed you?" The apparitions flickered, code in their gaze. One pressed a finger to her own blue lips. "Angelus, not forgotten. Find the blood, detective." The room spun. Eleanor gasped, the world righting itself harshly. The talismans vibrated, then fell silent. Breathing ragged, she recorded the name Angelus, a lost founder of the city and rumored sorcerer. The line between life and death was vanishing, and the curse hungered, tethered to bloodlines and secrets tangled deep in the city's bones. A brittle dawn clawed at Eleanor's window as she traced Angelus's legend through the city's brittle tomes and dust-caked archives. Angelus Delum, a founder cast out, accused of unspeakable rights to steal voices from the living, binding truth to silence. Eleanor read of his ritual, a pact sealed with blood, the curse his vengeful dying breath. In the shadows of the library, another whisper slithered over her shoulder. "Bloodline, the key, not yet broken." The murders, Eleanor realized, were not random. The victims were distant kin. Each one descended from those who banished Angelus. Their blood still carried the debt owed. With trembling fingers, Eleanor mapped out the genealogies, horror rising as her own name appeared among the intertwined roots. She was marked, not just as investigator, but as prey, and perhaps as the unwitting vessel meant to break or fulfill the curse. Thunder rolled as she closed the manuscript. A presence, cold and invisible, seemed to settle behind her, and for a moment, her reflection in the glass was not her own. The whispers sharpened. It ends where it began. The city, the curse, the very blood. The threads tightening around her throat. Sleep eluded Eleanor, nightmares gnawing at her resolve. In the dark, the city's victims wandered the thresholds of her consciousness, lips sewn shut by smoky thread, eyes beseeching. She woke with the echo of scratching, fingers on her window, a desperate plea in the whistling wind. Compelled, Eleanor returned to the merchant's abandoned home. The scent of rot lingered beneath the perfume of old letters. Following the chorus of whispering voices, she unearthed the trapdoor beneath the parlor rug. Candlelight found a shrine below, the floor inscribed with a blood-marked sigil, relics of old faith. On the wall, a mural, Angelus half shadow, half madness, his hands raised in supplication or curse. Blood-red lines connected painted faces, her own, unfinished, faded, but unmistakable. The dead congregation gathered at the edge of her vision, guiding her hands to uncover a wooden box. Within, a lock of silver hair and a scrap of fabric inscribed, "Only the blood returned can silence the echo." The truth gnawed at her. She would have to confront the final remnant of Angelus's legacy, wherever it lay, waiting in the restless dark. Wordless dread stalked Eleanor as she traced the dying city's veins to its oldest quarter, where streets twisted upon themselves and time festered. She entered a crumbling chapel, air heavy with dust and incense. The keeper waited within, Father Oren, ancient, eyes hollow as crypts. Time and guilt radiated from his trembling hands as he admitted, "We hid the truth. The curse was never broken, only buried." Oren revealed a hidden reliquary, its iron surface engraved with Angelus's seal. Inside, a faded parchment detailed the ritual. Blood must be willingly returned by one of the cursed line to complete the circle and silence the dead. To speak aloud the name, to spill your own lifeblood, it is the only way, Oren whispered. Eleanor's heart pounded. The keeper whispered prayers, but the echoes in the stones grew fevered, hungry for release. The chapel shadows danced as Oren's ancient voice begged her. "Do what we could not, detective. End this." The whispers in Eleanor's mind rose to a shriek. The time had come to pay the ancient debt. or be consumed by it forever. The candlelight flickered. Behind her, death seemed to lean in close. The city's heart thundered with ominous anticipation as Eleanor prepared the ritual, every step mirrored by an army of revenant eyes. She stood alone within the chapel's haunted nave, altar flanked by the relics she had gathered. Every whisper beat against her skull, the dead urging her on. She spoke Angelus's name, voice trembling but resolute. I return what was taken, release what was bound, I pay in blood. She drew a knife, a sliver of silver. As blade scored her palm, crimson stained the chapel stone. The air thickened with the howls of restless spirits. The walls groaned, and one by one, spectral mouths opened, screaming, then softening, until voices layered an aching song, uncertain and old. Her own blood mixed with the ancient sigil. Shadows peeled back as the curse's pattern unraveled. The faces around her, once warped by torment, softened, eyes closing in release as their whispers faded to silence. The city outside fell suddenly still, the oppressive hush thawing at last. Eleanor, trembling and bloodied, fell to her knees. A vessel emptied, the ancient hunger finally quelled. Only the after-echo lingered, a promise kept, or a debt paid in full. Morning crept pale and uncertain across the shattered city. Eleanor emerged from the chapel, hands bandaged and spirit hollowed by sacrifice. The air tasted cleaner, even the shadows seemed less insistent. She wandered through streets now, blessedly ordinary, feeling the absence of ghostly eyes. At each murder site, flowers had appeared, red and white for forgiveness and release. Dr. Shaw greeted her at the station, concern disguised as brusqueness. You look as if you've seen a ghost. Eleanor managed a wan smile. More than one, doctor. She recounted little, knowing that some truths would always remain unspoken, their horror too heavy to bear aloud. Mira Voss appeared, silent and watchful, only nodding in respect. The victims' families, relieved yet fragile, thanked Eleanor, sensing her role in the unnatural reprieve. Yet at night, Eleanor still heard faint memories brushing against reality, a reminder that curses, once awoken, always leave a residue. The city exhaled a collective sigh, but a small, cold part of Eleanor would forever dwell in its haunted heart. Eleanor stood in the city's graveyard at sunrise, fog gilded by gold. The last remnants of the victims' whispers curled up into the waking light, dissipating as if they never were. She knelt before Angelus's weathered stone, pressing the silver-threaded locket, her inheritance and burden, into the earth. Sleep now, she whispered to the restless dead and the city's bones beneath her feet. The curse had been severed, its echo lured to silence by blood and sacrifice. But she bore the scars, visible and otherwise. The world, so shrouded in dread, now shimmered with fragile hope. Children's laughter drifted on the breeze, life tentatively reclaimed. As Eleanor departed through crocus-studded grass, she felt the weight easing from her shoulders. The dead would not speak again, their truths at last at rest. And yet, she knew the line between shadow and daylight is always precarious. The crypt's hush, ever a heartbeat away. Still, she chose to face the sun, a sentinel who had journeyed through morning into morning, carrying the memory of whispers, haunted but finally at peace.